Hey, what's going on, guys? What's happening? YouTube, you guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about remote work. As always, I would love to hear your guys' opinions, your guys' takes, and kind of what's going on in your life. So let me know, are you still working remotely? If you wound up going back into the office, how long ago did that happen? How many days a week do they have you back in the office, or are you back in the office full time? What do you think about remote work? And also, what do you think about working in office? Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer a hybrid? Do you see it there as being benefits to both? I know we've covered this a number of times in the past, but I saw some articles coming out today. Elon Musk told Tesla workers, if you want to pretend to work, you can pretend to work somewhere else. He was quoted as saying, anyone who wishes to do remote work must be in the office for a minimum, and I mean minimum, of 40 hours per week, or depart Tesla. He said remote work is no longer acceptable. And I really don't know kind of what to believe or what the sentiment is or what most people are doing. I mean, outside of like my close circle of family and friends who, I kind of know which ones of them are back in the office and which ones of them aren't back in the office. I know about them, but generally speaking, kind of what's going on. I was having a discussion online about this the other day, and somebody said, well, I see all these stories about, XYZ company has gone entirely remote, and that's true, right? There's a lot of anecdotal stories of different, it's normally tech companies and things like that who have gone remote permanently. But I've also seen a lot of other articles coming out recently and surveys and things like that say, 50% of companies are bringing people back into the office full time. And one thing that this kind of got me thinking about is like, let's be honest. COVID is pretty much over at this point. Nobody's really that concerned. Numbers are down. The Omicron or whatever variant we have right now seems to be less dangerous, less harmful. My 94-year-old grandmother, who has heart issues and was just in the hospital a couple weeks ago for heart problems, just got COVID. And she said it was like the sniffles. She said it didn't really bother her at all. So, we're not really dealing with the same COVID that we were back in 2020. And so it kind of got me thinking, like, if you are a company and you are, I know some companies have come out and said we are entirely remote. If you are a company and you haven't brought people back into the office by now, and you haven't said we're just going to be remote permanently, I mean, what are you really waiting for at this point? Like, the situation really couldn't get any better at this point. So if you're not going to bring people back into the office now, you're probably not ever going to bring people back into the office. So just come right out and say that. We'll take a look at this article quoting Elon Musk, and Elon Musk telling Tesla workers to come back into the office. I know a few weeks back when he was first talking about or hinting at buying Twitter, he had told all the Twitter employees, I'm going to bring you guys back into the office. You don't need to be working at home. And I thought this was kind of interesting because last night I had to go pick a buddy of mine up at the airport. And my buddy works remotely, and he was down in Austin, Texas, hanging out with some friends for the past week. And pretty much the entire reason he was able to do this is because he works remotely. I bet you in the past 3 or 4 months, he's probably been down to Austin and Houston probably 3 or 4 times, visiting, hanging out with friends and things like that. And that's not something that he could do if he was back in the office. But I thought it was kind of interesting. He, on the ride home, let me tell you about this, man. I don't know if you guys have noticed, like, obviously there's labor shortages everywhere, logistical problems. I know my past few times flying have been an absolute nightmare. But I made the mistake of offering to give my buddy a ride home from the airport yesterday. And then, as soon as I agreed to it, then I find out it's an 11:40 flight. And I actually had to be up early this morning. But I'm like, okay, fuck, whatever. I'll get him. Hopefully we get out of there pretty quickly. His flight actually was not delayed. I know over Labor Day weekend there were a lot of flight delays, but his flight actually got in about 10 minutes early. And I'm like, okay, I might actually be home at a decent hour. Well, he wound up landing at like 11:30. His baggage didn't start coming down the baggage carousel until it was well after 12:30, probably 12:45. So, we're talking like an hour and 20 minutes from when he got off of his flight until his bag started coming down the carousel. So of course I didn't wind up getting home till almost 3 in the morning after dropping him off. Huge pain in the ass. But we were, and that's kind of another thing. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. Like, if you've ever traveled to a third world country, you just kind of learn to accept the fact that things move a little bit slower. Things aren't as organized. Things aren't as reliable. There've been a number of instances when, I was on vacation in some other country and I want to go see some sights or see some ruins, and I go to catch a bus or go to catch a train, and the train or the bus never shows up. And it's, in the US, it would be like, what the fuck? I got to get to work. This is crazy. But in some of these other countries, it's just like, sometimes the train comes, sometimes the train doesn't come. It's not a huge deal if it doesn't come. It's just kind of, that's what's to be expected. And, I don't think anybody can say we're not, living in somewhat of a decline of America right now. And it's just little things like that. I know the last time I flew Southwest into, I believe it was Midway as well. And it was another, it was over an hour, another late night flight, but it was over an hour for me to get my bags and get out of the airport. And I don't know if you guys are noticing this as well, but I'm just noticing things that in the past I would have never expected or anticipated here in the U.S., and that I might have anticipated in a third world country are now kind of starting to happen here. Not quite as bad as in some other countries in South and Central America and Southeast Asia and things like that, but things are definitely kind of declining and going downhill. I know I don't want to get too far off topic, but let me know if you guys have noticed any of that either. But no, I was driving my buddy home last night, and he was telling me how he'd been applying to some other jobs, and one of the companies that he was applying to was entirely remote. And, he's working remote right now. Previous to that, he had worked in an office with a marijuana company. But he said, I don't know if I want another entirely remote job. And I was like, you don't enjoy working from home. And, I see he gets to travel a lot. Something he couldn't do if he was working in an office. One of my girlfriend's girlfriends is friends with him. And so I know sometimes just in the middle of the day, he'll go get lunch with her, with this girl, or he'll go hang out at her place and, kind of watch movies, hang out, whatever, and maybe kind of half-ass do a little bit of work. And so I would think that he was somebody who kind of enjoyed the freedom and flexibility and maybe lighter workload or ability to seem more busy than you really are in his job. But he said, no, he said, I like, interacting, and keep in mind, he's a single guy who lives alone. So, I think it probably gets somewhat lonely, not having like any social activity besides hanging out with, us and some other friends or whatever. But he said, no, I like, having coworkers to talk to. I like going out for drinks after work with some coworkers. And he had mentioned he works in logistics. So he said, some of the warehouses that we run, I do the accounts receivable or make payments and things like that. He's in accounting, and he said, I see us, bringing barbecue in and having picnics and paying bills for employee appreciation events and things like that. And he's like, I know a lot of people think that's stupid and probably wouldn't want to do it, and they just want to get home from work. He's like, but I actually kind of enjoy the camaraderie and enjoy seeing my coworkers and hanging out with people and kind of having that social aspect of work. And he said, I don't think I want to have an entirely remote job. He said, I kind of like the flexibility. I like being able to throw a load of laundry in, cook myself something, get up for a few minutes and take a walk. He said, but I don't think I want to work at somewhere that's entirely remote. And I think that's one of the big mistakes that we as a society are kind of making, is that one way is good and other ways aren't good. So, remote is the best way and it's what everybody wants. Well, we've learned and we've heard from a lot of people, especially a lot of younger employees, that they're not really looking for that. A lot of people who are fresh out of college, it's weird getting a job, having never set foot in the office, having never met your coworkers. A lot of people want to be able to kind of bump elbows or rub elbows with their manager or the boss or the CEO. They kind of want to learn from other people. They want other people to kind of model themselves in their career after. They want those mentorship opportunities and they want to be trained well. And those are things that don't always necessarily happen in a remote work environment or remote work scenario. And I thought it was interesting for my buddy, somebody who's established in his career, who says, I'm not really enjoying remote work either. So I think there's definitely benefits to remote work. I think there's definitely benefits to in-office work. And I think probably the best of both worlds is some type of hybrid environment where people come in 1 to 2 days a week, 1 to 2 days a month, whatever it be, but actually know your coworkers, actually have some connection to your workplace, have some of that camaraderie, build some of those relationships. You're going to work better with people who you have a relationship with, who you have somewhat of a personal relationship with, who you know, who you can put a face to a name. And so I think hybrid is kind of the best model of all. But again, I'd love to hear kind of what's going on at your guys' companies. What do you prefer? What has your experience been? Let's give a read to this article. This one comes to us from Zero Hedge. Pretend to work somewhere else. Elon Musk says all Tesla employees must return to the office. As some companies try and delicately walk the line between returning to the office and offering work from home benefits to their employees in a post-COVID world, Elon Musk has taken a stance without quite as much nuance. Anyone who wishes to do remote work must be in the office for a minimum, and I mean minimum, of 40 hours per week or depart Tesla, Musk wrote in a company email that was leaked this week. Remote work is no longer acceptable was the name of the email. In it, Musk put his employees to a choice. Return to your desks and offices or start finding work somewhere else, the email reported on by Fortune. And somebody had tweeted this, somebody by the name of @Sam Neeson said, hashtag Tesla no longer allowing remote work. And it obviously contains his email. I only got a few minutes left, but if we have time, maybe we'll hop in here and kind of see what the folks on Twitter have to say. I'm guessing overall they kind of prefer remote work. It's kind of the case of Twitter and Reddit. This is less than what we ask of our factory workers, Musk added, possibly in a nod to the company's Shanghai factory, which had Chinese staff building cars during 12-hour shifts and sleeping on factory floors, excuse me, due to COVID lockdowns. If there are particularly exceptional contributors for whom this is impossible, I will review and approve those exceptions directly, Musk wrote. Moreover, the office must be a main Tesla office, not a remote branch unrelated to job duties. Musk has gotten some pushback for his comments. What else is new? On Twitter this week, with some users arguing that Tesla could wind up losing too many of its staff as a result of the forced work requirement. Online, Musk confirmed the authenticity of the email and made it crystal clear he had zero tolerance for those demanding the right to retain privileges, Fortune reported. They should pretend to work somewhere else, Musk wrote. So I got about 5 minutes left before I got to wrap this up and get on to a meeting. But so let's talk about this a little bit. So obviously Elon Musk has a very strong work ethic. To the extent that, he hasn't been very good to his family, his wife, his child, because he's just work all the time. Musk is, at least he's willing to kind of walk the walk. In terms of the comment about if you want to work remotely, you have to put in at least 40 hours a week in the office. To a lot of you guys, you'd probably think, well, that's not remote work. You're putting in your entire 40 hours a week in the office. I have a family member who actually moved out to California to take a job at Tesla. Was there for a few months and ultimately wound up being hit with a round of layoffs and being one of the newer employees. He wound up being laid off, and I don't want to get off on another tangent, but that's something that's happening right now. If you work in an industry or an area that's, potentially going to be hit with layoffs right now, be very careful about what jobs that you take. I know Netflix and a number of other companies that are laying off a lot of employees right now. You have people, I've seen on social media who are really excited about working for one of their favorite companies, getting their dream job. They quit their previous job. Some had even made moves to make a move across the country to relocate. Right before they're supposed to start, they wind up getting an email that their offer is being retracted. They're doing layoffs, and the job we had offered you is no longer on the table. And now you're in a situation where you left your previous job. Maybe you even put all your stuff into the storage, ended the lease on your apartment, sold your house or whatever else. Now you're kind of back to square one without a job. So be very careful who you take a job with these days, as more and more companies are going to start, kind of seeing layoffs. And obviously certain industries like tech and, any company that's funded by VCs, mortgage companies, these companies are all going to wind up being hit the hardest. But I don't want to get off on a tangent there. That's a whole nother story. But this family member of mine talked about how, kind of 70, 80-hour weeks were kind of what was expected of you and were kind of the norm. So when Elon Musk says you have to put in at least 40 hours in the office, most Tesla employees at least from my understanding, are probably putting in another 30 or 40 hours on top of, the quote-unquote standard 40-hour work week. Let me know what you guys think about this. I got a few minutes to kill, so let's kind of hop into Twitter here. Okay, totally bogus. 100% remote for software is impossible and will lose Tesla talent. I have no intention of ever going back to an office except for collaborative meetings. Also sick of being forced to live in a city because of work. Many would like a choice. They received 3 million job applications last year. So here's the thing, obviously companies don't want to lose talented employees. But at the same time, there are certain companies who are very desirable places to work, either for the experience, the pay, the perks, the prestige, just kind of working with a company that you love or a company whose product that you love. So keep in mind, might Tesla lose some good employees by forcing people to come back into the office? Absolutely that might happen. But, like this person pointed out, they also received 3 million job applications last year. So there's plenty of people who want to work for Tesla, despite the fact that they might wind up bringing you back into the office. Whenever this discussion of remote work winds up coming up, one of my strong points is always, I think until we as a society, we as a workplace, kind of decide how and why we value work and the way we value work, remote work is never going to be fully accepted, fully normalized, or a way that the majority of people are employed. And here's what I mean by that. Right now, even if you have a certain skill, even if you're salaried, at the end of the day, most employers are going to expect 40 hours a week from you or even more. They're going to expect 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 from you. Now, imagine you could finish your 40-hour work week in 20 hours. Do you think your boss would want to give you the additional 20 hours off per week to rest, relax, hang out with family, take on extra hobbies? Well, no. If you can finish all your work for the week in 20 hours instead of 40 hours, they'd like to give you 20 more hours worth of work, because we as a society seem to really kind of attach the idea of time for money, as opposed to your employer paying you for a specific skill set, a specific revenue goal, a specific target, a specific end result. And until we kind of wrap our heads around, how and why are we paying people in the way that we are, this is never going to happen. And this is why a lot of companies don't like remote work, because if you are in an office and somebody's potentially looking over your shoulder, maybe somebody's not keeping tabs on you, but you notice how many times somebody gets up to go to the bathroom, how many times somebody leaves the office to go on a coffee break. You see and you notice these things. And obviously, I think if we're honest with ourselves, most people can say they're probably not going to be as diligent or as on task at home with no eyes on them as they are in the office. Now, I hear a lot of people saying I'm more productive than ever at home. I don't have coworkers bothering me. I'm not wasting, time on a commute, so I have more time to work, or I'm not stressed out about these things, and I'm more efficient. And I hear a lot of people say that, but I also hear a lot of people say, in a given week, I maybe do 6 hours of actual work. If you guys do work remotely or have worked remotely, let me know what your experience has been. Do you think you've been less productive or more productive? And just in terms of the amount of time that you're spending on your job, or the amount of time that you're on task, is it more or less when you're at home or in the office? But, if employers stopped looking at it as, I want to pay this person to be sitting in this chair looking at the screen from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and just kind of looked at it as, am I happy with their performance? Are they hitting the revenue targets that I have set for them? Obviously, all jobs are different in terms of how success and performance is measured. But if somebody is happy with your performance, you're doing a good thing for the company, they're happy with your skill set, they're happy with your work ethic, does it really matter whether you put in 37 hours or 40 hours a week? Does it really matter if you take an hour and a half lunch instead of a 30-minute lunch or an hour lunch? And I think until we kind of get past the whole time for money thing, I don't think remote work is really going to take off and be a mainstream thing. Let's read a couple more comments and then I got to run. It's impressive how many times this one man can tacitly admit to overworking his employees in a small space of a single email. Here's one of the things, a company like Tesla is known for having long working hours, and you really got to have a strong work ethic. We can argue whether that's good or bad, right or wrong. But at the end of the day, if you want a job where you're going to be putting in 40 hours a week and not taking work home from you and going home at 5 on a dot every day, Tesla's probably not a place that you should apply to be working in the first place. This is less than we ask of factory workers. Factory workers work more than 40 hours per week. The ones in China aren't even allowed to go home. Let's see. I'm not sure why Apple or other top performing companies can facilitate nearly 100% remote work, but Tesla cannot. I work 100% remotely. I'd like to know. And this is kind of what I mean, like when you go on Reddit or Twitter and things like that, this is kind of the attitude that remote work is the best way. Everybody likes it, and it should be this way. But again, you know, there's plenty of surveys that have come out. I believe it's something like 74% or more of Gen Z employees aren't fans of remote work, or at least not entirely remote work. And my buddy, who's I guess he's a millennial, you know, he's not a huge fan of 100% remote work either. So would love to hear your guys' thoughts, opinions, whatever else you have to add about this story. Go ahead and drop a comment down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll catch you on the next video.